And for more on the story, we're joined by Natasha Lindstaedt. She is Deputy Dean of Education at the University of Essex. Thanks so much for joining us. This is one rare instance where President Biden actually agreed with Donald Trump. After 20 years, what does the U.S. have to show for this long war?
After 20 years and nearly $2 trillion spent, there's not that much to show for it. Unfortunately, I think initially the operation to pacify the Taliban was successful, but then it turned into a nation building, or a state building, I should say, effort and democratization. And that's where the U.S. really failed. And the Taliban came back with a vengeance. They're really stronger now than they have ever been. They have 85,000 fighters. They control as much as about 20% of the country, but they challenge they can challenge the Afghan central government in almost every district. And it really is just a matter of time before I think the Taliban will fully take over because they just are much stronger than the Afghan central government that is so incredibly weak. And I think the Biden administration acknowledged and understood that even with the U.S. presence there, even with NATO there, they were never going to be able to achieve full stability because there are other violent non-state actors there in addition to the Taliban. The Al-Qaeda is also there. The Islamic State is there as well, which is much weaker. But it was an incredibly difficult effort to really unite Afghanistan under one central government and to have any kind of stability there.
Now, as we mentioned, the Afghan government is reacting by saying there are no winners in this conflict. What does this withdrawal mean for the Afghan government?
I think there are real concerns for the Afghan leadership, for Ashraf Ghani, the president, for the central government in general. I mean, they've been reliant on the U.S. And foreign aid for keeping the military going. I mean, 80% of the funds comes from the U.S. to just keep the military afloat. And they've never been able to really fully exercise control or have a monopoly over the legitimate use of force. And so they've been teetering for some time now. I think they were hoping that the U.S. would stay and other foreign partners. But it's been very, very difficult to get the Taliban to come to any agreement. And the reason is because the Taliban knows that the Afghan government is weak and it has really no leverage. So I think there's real concerns for what the future is for the central government there, what kind of negotiation they can make as a much weaker partner with the Taliban and how they can achieve any type of peace.
In terms of the United States, how much of a threat to the U.S. is Afghanistan compared to other countries in the region?
Well, I think that's another part of the calculation for Biden, that the terror threat coming from Afghanistan really is not imminent. There are far bigger threats actually to the U.S. with domestic terror groups. And it's not as though the U.S. is completely leaving the region. Of course, the U.S. Will continue to be involved, and they've developed far greater counterintelligence links there. They can still use drones to try to take out any type of sources of funding, because obviously hundreds of millions of dollars come from the drug trade, and that helps fund the Taliban. So it will continue to be involved and will continue to keep an eye on the rise of Al-Qaeda there. But at the moment, they've decided that there isn't any kind of immediate threat from terror groups there.
Is this a strategic decision by President Biden, or is this just more about war fatigue, the fact that this has been going on for 20 years now?
I think it's a little bit of both. Biden was never in favor of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan when he was vice president. He didn't think that the U.S. presence was that effective. And so there is some fatigue there, that there's just this idea that what can we really do here, that it's not likely we're going to be able to achieve our objectives. But I think Biden and his administration want to move towards other issues. They want to move towards achieving some sort of détente in Iran. They seem to be tackling the relationships with Russia and China. And they've decided that it's not a good use of U.S. troops to be in Afghanistan. And that's essentially what Biden said in his speech.
Okay, we want to thank you, Natasha Lindstaedt, Deputy Dean of Education at the University of Essex. Thanks so much for your time and your perspective today.